So here's how nice people get taken advantage of. And I want you to like follow to the end if you're a nice person, if you're that type of person. Um, and I'll let you know how I kind of deal with this stuff. And I think it's super important, right? So, how do nice people get taken advantage of? So, by the way, I am a management professor. I've studied this kind of stuff for a long time. My field is more on innovation, and failure, but I'm also pretty well aware of this kind of stuff as well, in cursory. So here's how this is how nice people get taken advantage of, right? So imagine you're in a surrounding where there is two people that you're trying to garner their respect from, right? So the first one is somebody that is really grumpy and irritable and just kind of like not a very nice person. If you're forced to interact with them, right? And they're kind of forceful in a put on a pressure kind of way, what's going to happen is that you are going to inevitably respond by working a little bit harder because you feel some sort of social pressure to impress them. Now, that only works in certain circumstances, right? If they're in a certain role or, that they've garnered some sort of respect. But normally what happens is that those people move up in the sort of chain of command typically because they get quote unquote get things done. Right, and so what you'll see is that there is this sort of certain type of people, quote unquote, that get things done. That are at these particular positions that make you respond in a certain way. And you probably do, many people do respond to them because that it seems decisive, right? That they are actually doing something and you want to impress them. Now, on the other hand, imagine somebody that is nice, right? So imagine what is this kind of nice person look like? They are probably a little bit more laid back. They bite their tongue a little bit more if there's mistakes and errors that are being made. They there's somebody that you feel comfortable around, right? And there's not that sort of weird tension that happens or you're walking, the feeling is walking on eggshells, right? Like if you have that feeling, um, or if you feel comfortable enough that things kind of unravel in a natural way and you feel totally natural, well, they're probably, a nice or empathetic person. Now, in those kind of environments, you might let things slide. You may, you know, uh, be a little bit less, aggressive with them. You may say, well, I can wait a day or two. And inevitably, one of the things that will happen is like, oh, I maybe don't need to necessarily work with them as much because I have this other deadline because of somebody that's a little bit more aggressive and trying to get things done. Um, and so inevitably what happens is that, you gravitate towards a sort of more on the aggressive side than the person that's a little bit more laid back. Now what happens is that turns into, eventually these kind of deadline slip and all those kind of things. And it turns into eventually you start feeling guilty and you don't want to be around that person because it's a reflection, not on the person that's sort of being very aggressive, but the person that is being sort of kinder and gentler. And then you feel guilty because that you haven't performed the way that you did and you distance yourself from that particular relationship. That's how these things kind of unfold, right? In a very natural way, where if you're that nice person, sometimes that happens a lot, where in a natural way, it just kind of unfolds where you don't necessarily, um, where, opportunities kind of disappear that you don't feel or people don't feel as um, that sort of sense of pressure around you. And you just kind of have to deal with it, right? Where things don't naturally happen um, as they would, or, people just don't feel that sort of type of pressure that get things done. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. This happens a lot, particularly to, um, just certain groups. I don't want to name any because it's just like so crazy political at this moment. Just certain groups, um, because of, um, because of how they just certain groups. Let's just go there. So I think that this is very real in a lot of organizations, from hospitals to small businesses to large corporations, like what are called Fortune 500 corporations. These are big, big, big companies like McDonald's and IBM and things like that. And I think it happens a lot. It's not necessarily a phenomenon that is unique to one particular situation or one particular happens in hospitals. um and for example, a doctor, nurse relationship, for example, right? Nurses are going to respond to doctors that are more grumpy than ones that tend to be a little bit more nicer, for example. And sort of move in that direction, gravitate in that direction. So here's what you do if you're that sort of nice person. You have to build up boundaries in your um you have to build up boundaries so that you can separate yourself from the rest of the world. Right? I think that this is I talk about this a lot, right? So you learn how to just say, screw you to the rest of the world, where you just simply put up this boundary and you say, this is what I'm going to give and do, and that's it. And if you like it or not, that's not my issue, right? That is not my particular problem. And so the world has to somewhat adjust around you. And I know that this sounds really like kind of grumpy cat-ish, but it's really not, right? Like I'm saying, protect yourself by imagining. I love one of the best techniques is to kind of imagine yourself in the third person, or be a bit of a hero in your life, where you imagine what would this hero do. And it's usually, the reason why I say imagine yourself in the third person is so you can create these boundaries in your life, that are very real, right? That you have to say, I'm going to be a gentle, kind, um, loving person, but I'm going to do that in the way that I can accessibly do. And if the rest of the world doesn't accept that and doesn't see it for what it actually is, then so be it. It's not a flaw that I have, right? So I think it's very easy to internalize or go down that sort of rabbit hole where you say, well, I'm a problem, or I'm I'm the issue. All of these things, you're going to go down through those moments, and you're going to think like, oh, I need to be more aggressive and more angry and more grumpy. I'm going to tell you this just from, you know, experience, it doesn't work out, right? So what's going to happen is that you are going to your soul is going to kind of die a little bit when you do that, right? Like, your soul is no longer going to be as fun. It's not going to be as lighthearted, and you're going to lose those things. And think I see what happens a lot of time with people that are very senior in their career. You sort of see that over time, right? So in order to make sure that you continue to have this sort of sense of play, this sense of, I'm just going to laugh things off, um, I am going to protect myself, so I have an open, big heart all of the time. You view yourself as, okay, I have I have certain characteristics, I have certain traits, I have certain um, things that I cherish and value, and that is I'm going to be a loving, kind, gentle person, and be respectful. And if the world, and I'm not talking about, and this is the thing where you just have to say it's the world, right? Like it's not because every single transaction in your life is going to be this way, right? And so if the world is not going to respond to that in kind, so be it. I am going to be a gentle, loving, kind, generous person in all of my transactions. And what I'm going to do is protect myself. If people don't respond in kind, right? Like you go to the grocery store and somebody doesn't respond in kind, you just say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to walk away the other way," right? Because what ultimately is happening is you're bumping into people that are just, often just not very happy inside and they're wrestling with something. And the world will respond to those people. Like go into a grocery store, right? Like you go into a restaurant. Um, the grumpy person, the grumpy customer that is irritable and all of that, they're gonna get all of the service because people are kind of afraid, right? And you're gonna be thinking like, I'm trying to be nice here and I'm gonna be gentle and all that kind of stuff. And you're kind of like, you're forgetting about me. Hello. But what you have to just simply say is, you know, bless your heart, which is a nice Southern saying that just basically means I'm so sorry. Um, and learn to generate a wall where you say, okay, well, I am going to be me and I'm going to be kind and generous and I'm going to stand up what I need to be, but I'll do it in a kind and generous way. And you do that repeatedly throughout your life and all your transactions and all your interactions. And one would hope that you live a meaningful, happy life, right? And that's the objective is to live a meaningful, happy life. It's not to garner power. It's not to be successful. It's not to, make more money and all of this kind of nonsense stuff that is often sold. It's how can I live a peaceful life with a beautiful heart and be kind and generous and treat other people with respect. And most importantly, treat yourself with respect. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.